nonprofit organizations in our area. So today we're talking about funding your nonprofit business. And if you are a nonprofit business and been in business for any time at all, you know that funding is critical. So today we're going to talk, I'm going to give you some statistics in case you are putting together your business plan or your marketing plan. We're going to talk about where you can look for funding opportunities and how to identify ones that are relevant to your business. And then we're going to talk about individual donations because that's really the foundation of giving for most nonprofits. So up to 50% time and effort should go to fundraising. If you are lucky to have a development person or a fundraising person on your board who can help you, I'd say that's fantastic. And if you can recruit somebody to your board who has that experience, you'll be way ahead of the game. So do think about it. The greatest need, just like a for-profit business, if you don't have money, you're going to go out of business. So that's got to be on the top of your mind. So where do nonprofit funds come from? Now, in the overall scheme of things, service fees and sales of goods provide almost half of the total revenue. And so about 25% comes from government, mostly through contracts and grants. And charitable giving accounts for less than 25% of nonprofit income. However, most of the small nonprofits fall into the category that is supported primarily by charitable giving. When we talk for fee for service, if you can bill for your services, that's a phenomenal way to develop a revenue stream. So think about, are there aspects of what you're providing that you can charge for? Just because you're nonprofit does not mean that everything you provide has to be free. So hospitals obviously bill patients. Well, today we do find a lot of for-profit hospitals, but still the main of them are nonprofit. If you look at museums, they have admission fees. Theaters sell tickets. If you belong to a civic organization, you probably pay dues. And also, if you think about your nonprofit, is it organized such that you could charge dues? Colleges, of course, require tuition. So there are ways to make money by charging for the services that you provide. A good example is Girl Scout cookies. They raise billions of dollars by selling cookies. And here's an example of where their cookies go to. They not only support programs, they support the membership and the services. Also, of course, they buy their cookies. They don't actually make them. And so there are lots of different ways to use the money, but it's all coming from selling Girl Scout cookies. Now, other example, WVIZ has an annual auction. That's their primary fundraising effort of the year, although they do have at least semi-annually, maybe more frequently than that, appeals to individuals for donations. Many nonprofits have balls or dinners, and the American Heart Association is a good example. And usually what you pay for a ticket is a lot more than what the actual dinner is worth, and that's your donation. A lot of nonprofits start out doing 5K and 10K buddy walks or runs, because those are relatively inexpensive to run. The one downside in any kind of event that you have is that you put money in to create the event and you don't have enough participation to cover your costs. So you really have to look at how many people can I bring in to participate and what is it going to cost me? And if you're small and you're just starting out and you don't have a network built of fans and supporters, you might want to rethink and have some other activity that would raise money. If you know a celebrity, for instance, who would be willing to do a free concert for you, that would be terrific. So some of the sources of funds for nonprofits, and this is last year, I just updated this yesterday. The total charitable giving was more than $500 billion, which is amazing. But individuals gave 67% of that, so keep that in mind. Foundations, 18%, corporations, and also another thing you want to think about is behest, asking people to leave money for your organization in their will. Or if they're retired and they have a 401k that they have to get money from, take a distribution every year, they might be willing to donate from that. So the nice thing or the important thing in getting funding is to try many different sources. That way, if one source dries up, you're not totally dependent on them. So, think about many different ways of raising money. Now, how are funds gone? What happens to them? In 2023, here's the distribution. First to religious causes, education, human services, grant-making foundations, and public society benefit organizations. So overall funding increased, particularly for foundations, and usually foundations collect money to give out in grants, so that's a good thing. An increase in education, which again is a good thing. So when you look at it, about 20% of your donors give 80% of your dollars. So you want to really look at your donations over time and try to identify your highest yield donors, who's giving you the most money on a regular basis, and try to groom those people or foundations, whoever, to give you an increasing amount on an annual basis. So you want to be donor focused. That means that when you raise money, first of all, you want to let people know, where is it going? What am I going to use it for? People are much more willing to donate if they know specifically that their funding will be used for a specific cause. For instance, I have a client who provides school supplies for underserved kids. When she advertises, she doesn't say, give me $5 to help supply school supplies for kids. On the other, she will say, if you donate $5, it will buy, pens, pencils, pads, and so forth. But if you donate $15, that will not only buy those supplies, but a backpack to put them in. And people are then more likely to say, well, gee, I might as well put the backpack as well. So if you encourage people by telling them how that money is going to be used, you'll find that they're more likely to donate. So what do people respond to when it comes to donations? And we've broken it down into three categories: millennials, Gen X donors, and baby boomers. And keep in mind, baby boomers might be the ones that have the most money. Millennials prefer to give online. They'll give cash. They'll use PayPal or Zelle, Venmo, one of those. They're happy to do that. They're most inspired by social media, but they do respond to emails and website. Direct mail is probably a waste of time with millennial donors. If you look at Gen X, it's not too different. They use the same cash or PayPal. They respond maybe a little bit less to social media and more to email, but pretty much the same as the millennials. The baby boomers will respond to direct mail or post. There are still a lot of older people who are not confident with using a computer, and they're more likely to do bank or wire transfer. A few of them will use PayPal. Again, they will respond more to direct mail, not so much to website and social media. So when you're planning your strategy for fundraising, think about, what group am I targeting? And you can actually focus, say, your social media on millennials and Gen X donors, and your direct mail on baby boomers and older people. So it will help you develop a strategy. Again, individual donors are the bulk of donations. So eventually you want to get to the point where you are getting donors from individuals. As you see, many of them are enrolled in a recurrent giving program. One-time gifts are pretty low, but if you can get them on your website or in person to donate $5, $10, $15 a month, they're much more likely to buy into that than a big lump sum donation. So encourage people to just give you small amounts, but keep giving it, because that's going to add up. And if they can increase it a little bit every year, over time, you will have a significant donation. Only 9% of people participate in workplace giving programs. Nevertheless, those are a good source of matching funds. So you want to ask people when they donate if they work for a company that has matching funds. Interestingly enough, many of them, if they say would give you $50 and their company says they would cover up to 100, they might go back and change it to 100. So do follow up with each donation and ask them, do you participate in a workplace giving program? So now's a good time to ask. There's inflation, but that doesn't mean that people won't donate. I was just listening to a discussion on NPR this morning about charitable contributions. And while it does appear that fewer people are donating than, say, pre-pandemic, the people who donate are giving significantly more. So there's still a lot of opportunity. So again, it feels good to give to a cause. And again, you want to think about how is my program or my cause affecting people on an emotional basis? People will donate if they feel an emotional tie. So you want to know your prospects. Check on past donations. What's the age range, the income, tax status? If you can figure out those things, you can target your giving campaign specifically to those people. And again, if you have a purpose that people buy into and appreciate, they will donate. But if you don't ask, you won't get anything. So it never hurts to ask. So these days, a donation page is absolutely critical. Many, many people will donate over the web. So the online revenue is up 23% a year, 57% repeat donors, and online monthly giving revenue has gone up around 40%. So that's a significant strategy for fundraising. So to create a donations page, you want to make sure that your donations page is separate, but there's a link to it on every other page that you have on your website. And in a call to action, donate now, make it prominent. So you want to have powerful affirmations. You want to show people that you're being successful. You want testimonials from clients. So you want things that attract givers. And if you think about marketing, it's always what's in it for me. And so you want to offer people an opportunity to participate in your organization by supporting your cause. So it should be a positive experience for your donors. It's not putting out your hand and asking for money. It's offering them an opportunity. So problems that you might have with your donation page. Some of them load too slowly. If you're putting video clips on your website, make sure they're actually on YouTube or some other repository and just linked to your website, because then they respond much more quickly. If it's too complicated to go through and donate, you're going to get people who start and then just get frustrated and give up. And if it just doesn't work, go to your website, go to your donation page, go through it and see how simple is it. Does it work quickly? Am I allowed to go through it and choose my donation rapidly? Is there enough information about what the money is going to be used for? All of those things. Don't require that somebody set up an account in order to make a donation. You want them to make a donation and then collect the information. So obviously, if they make a donation and they give you a credit card, they've got to give you their address and so forth, and you'll have their email. So you can build your donor database from the back end information. So don't start out saying, set up an account. That discourages people. So you want to keep it concise. You want to make sure that everything on your website and all your other material is consistent so that you're building your brand and making it recognizable to your supporters. Again, so important to tell people how the money's being used. If you don't tell them, they don't know. It's like, well, if I only give you $15 or $20, it's like going down a hole. So tell people, what is this money going to be used for? Make sure you identify things on your website. You want to optimize it. Most people are going to be using their phone. And then the minute they donate, you want to send them an email saying, thank you so much. Your funds are going to be a tremendous assistance to our organization. Again, make sure that it runs on multiple platforms, so test it. And of course, you want to make sure it's secure if you're collecting data. So when you approach people, and this is in a lot of instances, a major donor, if you identify your major donors, you want to go to them personally and show them that you have your budget projections up to date. You have done your due diligence and re-evaluated your case statement. So you want to make your donor recruitment and your fundraising a very high priority. Again, if you don't have enough money, ultimately, you're going to go out of business, and you don't want to do that. So use your statement of need. What is your case? What is your need? Why would people support you? You want a vision for your prospective donors that is really compelling. So I was meeting with someone this morning and I said, if you don't feel that you're a great writer, write down about your business and then put it in one of the AI tools such as Chat GPT and say, make it more compelling, make it more marketable, and you'd be surprised at what you get back. So you want to write it from the donor perspective. Again, what are the benefits and the outcomes that are going to be realized from their investment? What's going to make them feel good about giving to your organization? So you want to, again, describe the programs you're doing and why the money is needed and what you are going to be doing with it again. So in your case statement, again, you're writing to reach people emotionally. You want to talk about your mission and your vision. Why are you unique? What's the history of the organization? Your programs. What impact does your programs have? What difference are you making to the community that you're serving? Again, financial needs, how will funds be used? What difference will your gift make? This should be all on your website. Things that you might think about, again, if you have built a network or you have a really compelling program, you might want to think about crowdfunding. And usually it's for a project where you set a funding goal, you promote your story, how you're going to use the funds. You want to involve your supporters as much as possible. Use pictures, videos. If you need help, find somebody who can help you put, again, a compelling campaign. Again, if you can't communicate it, you can't be successful. It's called crowdfunding because you have to reach a lot of people. So if your email database is not robust, it might be difficult to encourage people. if you can share it on social media, again, encourage your network to promote it to their network so that you reach more and more people. And most of the crowdfunding sites that support nonprofit organizations don't take anything until you actually get funds. These are the top crowdfunding sites for nonprofits. What they generally do is take a percentage of the funds that you raise. So you're not losing anything by using these sites. But if you don't have some brand awareness, you might find it difficult to raise many funds on that site. One of the things that you want to consider is, again, a legacy gift program. If you have some high-profile donors, again, particularly baby boomers, maybe who don't have children, and are looking for some place to donate, make sure they're aware of your organization and how their gift might benefit your organization. So obviously you want to track your donors. You want to be able to break them down by, again, age, income, willingness to donate, and so forth. Here are some fundraising software that, again, they're free. Some of them are free up to a certain amount, and then they start charging. Again, there are a number of different ones. Salesforce has a nonprofit success pack, which is free, but it's not intuitive. Some of these other ones, and you might just test a few of the different programs to see which one really is most fitting for your organization. So let's talk about granting sources, because there are potential sources to at least get reasonable amounts. We're going to talk a little bit about corporate giving programs, grant giving foundations, federal nonprofit programs, state and municipal, and so forth. So again, we talked a little bit about matching gift programs. Always ask if your donor has a company that matches. So an estimated $4 to $10 billion in matching gift funds go unclaimed every year because nobody bothers to ask. 65% of Fortune 500 companies offer matching gift programs. Over 18 million individuals work for companies with matching gift programs. So an estimated 2 to 3 billion is donated through matching gift programs. 84% of donors say they're more likely to donate if a match is offered, and indicate they'd give larger gifts if matching is applied. So really think about that. That's sort of an unexplored opportunity, say. Here are some of the companies that do matching, and some of the amounts that they will match. So you might, when you go through this, look at ones that might relate to organizations that you're familiar with. So many privately funded foundations exist solely to better society by supporting nonprofit organizations. So these are foundations, many of them, you're probably familiar with the Susan Komen Foundation. These are generally set up by families to support a particular disease, maybe a particular type of research. They generally have very specific causes, but they collect money to distribute it through grants. So they don't actually have a charitable activity themselves, but they do give grants to nonprofits that do. So if you go to a grant-giving private foundation, these are the things. You will need a cover letter, probably a business plan or a case statement that we just talked about for your website, a description, the need for your nonprofit budgets. Budgets are always important, and what you have to show people what your need is. You can't say we just need money to do this. You need so many dollars for different aspects of your organization. There are still foundations that are funding ongoing nonprofits that were affected by the pandemic rather than doing startups. And most of them are online applications. So again, here's a list of some of the top corporate foundations and how much money they've given. Unfortunately, the data are pretty old, but they're still the relevant organizations. So there are some federal nonprofit grant programs, and you can go to grants.gov and search for grants. You'll find tons of grants when you put in a search topic. So the more you can narrow it down, the better you'll be. Here are some: the National Endowment for the Arts, for Humanities, state or city government websites, the National Endowment state councils, and databases of philanthropic organizations. And I particularly recommend candid.org. So again, there are a lot of different grant opportunities. Many of the local businesses have foundations. You can go to their website and see what their objectives are, what kinds of things. You will find, say, within the city of Cleveland, if you look at most of the bank foundations, they will support education, they'll support underserved communities, they'll support small business. So if you fall into one of those categories, I would encourage you to submit an application. They're all online. We'll be giving a grant writing webinar next month. No, maybe early January. But there are a lot of opportunities for small amounts. And again, when you do fundraising, it's fine to get small amounts from lots of different organizations, so that rather than getting a lump sum from one organization, and if they decide not to fund you anymore, you're up the creek. So the more diverse your fundraising is, the better off you are. So these links are live. If you're in, I will be sending you a copy of the slides. The links are live, and so it will take you to those specific. Now, again, the city of Cleveland sometimes has funding programs, sometimes not, depending on what they get from the state usually. And sometimes they're doing pilot programs. So you have to keep checking periodically to see. Usually what happens, they get a pot of money. Once it's used up, it's gone, and there's no more opportunity. So you have to just keep checking. Again, Candid will give you a list of all the private organizations, and then you can go to their website and follow up. And again, easy to apply. Most of them are online. If you have done a good description of your business, you will find that you can just cut and paste it into the application. Here are some small business grants for women. And a few bonus tips. If you're just starting out, it's a good idea to reach out to similar organizations, not necessarily competitive, but ones maybe outside of your market area. Introduce yourself and ask, how they got started, what what problems did they run into, what issues maybe would they like to have been aware of before they got started. Um, so kind of get an idea of what you should be aware of, looking for as you build your organization. I do want to say that if you have a nonprofit organization and you're just starting out, make sure you have good board members. Find somebody who's good at fundraising. Maybe find a CPA who wants to donate his time and help you with your financials. Maybe a marketing person. If you don't like to do administrative work, maybe an administrative person. Maybe if you're providing service to a particular group, maybe a representative of that group. But you want people who will commit to your organization, help you grow your organization. Otherwise, you as an individual are going to be under a lot of stress to do all of these things yourself, because they have to be done if you want to grow your business. And if you don't have a good board to assist you, it's going to be extremely challenging. So you don't have to wait until you're completely official before you get started. These days, the IRS sometimes is very slow to respond. They used to have to respond within 60 days. That is not the case post-pandemic, and sometimes it takes absolutely months. But if you have a pretty good idea that you are going to be approved, you can let people know if they donate that they will have a tax deduction once you are approved. And it will be relevant and retroactive to the day that you submitted your application to the IRS. So keep that in mind. You might want to practice your grant writing skills. Again, grant writing is important, unless yours is a national level institution. Many of your major projects will depend on grant funding. Again, you want to build a individual donor base, particularly for the long term, but if you have good projects, you can get grant funding for a lot of those, particularly from local and regional foundations. So Candid has some grant writing classes. They have other kinds of information that will help you start and grow your nonprofit. And of course, SCORE has mentors who work with nonprofits and will help you get your nonprofit together and help you grow it. So we will be doing building capacity for your nonprofit. This is obviously for nonprofits that are in business and ready to take the next step of expanding. That's later this month. And then next month we'll be doing grant writing basis. So there we are. Are there any questions? I'm happy to answer questions. Again, I will definitely be sending your recording and a copy of the slides. Again, if you put the slides in slideshow mode. All of those links to funding sources will be live. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. And again, follow up if you need a mentor to help you with your nonprofit. By all means, go to our website and sign up. We're happy to help you. Let's see. Okay. So I hope that you have a great afternoon and look forward to seeing you at one of our next sessions.